So obviously the big news that's hit the waiver wire and is bitty, 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 bitty. The Jusuf Nurkic is now a member of the Phoenix Suns. And, I feel like that's what we should call it now. It's the Nurkic for Ayton trade. It's not, the DA trade, the goodbye. That's saying goodbye to the past. We have to focus on the future. And what I really want to talk about, is kind of our perception of Nurkic on this trade. But I'll start by asking you guys this simple question. We're 2 days away from the deal. I'll start with you, Suns Geek. Tell me how you felt when it happened and where you are right now. Like, give me a grade when it happened and give me a grade of the trade where you're at right now.
To answer both questions, I'm going to give it a B- for the day it happened, like my actual reaction, and even now, because we've had a couple days to process, as I call it. We've had a couple days to do homework, you know what I mean? And I'm still giving it a B. And maybe it's just because there was just so much happening and Damian Lillard was involved in everything. Maybe that's why it seems a little underwhelming. But we can't, I don't care if you watch all this film and you look up all the stats and you do X, Y, and Z. We cannot judge this trade until they have actually played some games and we kind of know what this team looks like. So I'm going to give it a B-. What about you guys?
I feel like you and I had that conversation on the side, didn't we?
Yep, pretty much.
You don't know until you see it. But Matthew, what grade do you give it when it happened? What grade do you give it now?
When it happened, the trade itself, I didn't like. I didn't like getting Nurkic and those guys back. I don't know if it's a good return or not, but that's his trade value. I give it about maybe a D or a C in there, maybe a C-. Yeah, let's go with the C-. The next day, yesterday, I didn't really feel anything. I kind of forgot about it. I kind of forgot the DA is gone, but then I saw today he's in Portland. I think that was happy. He seemed, yeah. The energy is there with DA. Dominating's in the house. He's excited to be there. A new beginning for him. A fresh start. Fresh starts are. A lot of people think like, well, if I go somewhere else, if I move somewhere else, things will be different, right? Things will change. Not all the time. You can get rid of the bad people in your life. That'll definitely help. And maybe there were some guys on that roster with the Suns that DA could not stand, and for him to grow, he needs to move away from. But I think in a new situation, nothing's going to change unless you go out there and prove it. We've seen that from DA, him being happy and stuff. So it's good to see him there wearing number 2. He's excited. Right now, I'm going to stick with just a C-, just overall as, just grading the trade itself. It's kind of nice to not worry about DA. I was kind of waiting for those feelings I had, like when Mikal was gone. I was up for like a week every night.
Yeah,
looking at Mikal Bridges stuff, and I was upset. It was kind of like a breakup. The first time I heard about it with KD coming, I was fine with it. I was excited. When Mikal, I'm like, oh, Mikal's gone and Cameron Johnson. That was upsetting to me. But right now, I'm not upset. I'm kind of forgetting about it. So I don't know, man. I think it's great that he is gone, and I'm happy for him to have a fresh start. But there's nothing that tells me that he's going to have a good career that we're going to miss. And the whole Nurkic return, who knows? Another guy that has something to prove too, and he's standing next to a big ass cactus on Twitter, and he's excited to be here in Arizona.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you in the aspect that the feelings that I feel upon DeAndre Ayton's departure don't obviously match those of when Mikal Bridges left. When it happened, I gave the trade a D-. I feel like the Phoenix Suns got fleeced. I feel like they were desperate. I feel like they zoned in on one player and were doing anything they could to make it happen. And I took into account that if you look at the 3 best players in this trade, we ended up with the 4th best one. So that was a D-. But again, a couple days later, absorbing more, reading more, researching more, hearing things come out. One thing that I've kind of taken out of as a factor is the fact that Dame Lillard is in Milwaukee. Everyone's like, well, if we have to play them in the finals, yeah, that's a big what if. Because I actually think Milwaukee kind of got a little worse with Dame Lillard, just due to the fact that I think that Drew Holiday and what he did fit what they like to do perfectly. And having an offensive player like Dame Lillard is going to really compromise their identity on defense, and that's what their identity is. I think that the Portland Trailblazers obviously aren't done doing what they're doing, but ultimately I look at it now and I give it a B- now. And part of the reason is, as we talked about when the live reaction happened, that Kevin O'Connell put some of that information out there that the Suns' interior or interior or ulterior motives, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant didn't want him here. So if they don't want him here, then fuck, man, like they got to be right. I got to side with them on that. You know, that's part of it. The other part of it is, you know, the fact that we're bringing back some depth. I don't know if it's great depth, but we're bringing back some depth. But we also gave ourselves some flexibility. That DeAndre Ayton, based on all the conversations that we're having, that were occurring, wasn't going to be productive or happy here. As much as we wanted him to be and wanted to see him play under Frank Vogel and believe that he could be that defensive anchor, to see how happy he was in Portland today fortified how unhappy he was in Phoenix, in my opinion. Did you guys feel that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely did. I think that he can put on that show, though, his energy and stuff, and be pumped up and ready. You know what I mean? He's done that before. Just to be happy in a place with a fresh start is what he needed. The whole thing, though, where I don't know if you listened to Bill Simmons today, but he was all over the Sun saying this was a bad idea.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Bill Simmons was a DeAndre Ayton fan. What the fuck was that?
Anytime the Suns do anything, he's always on the opposite team's side. He's always.
I want to hear from Russillo.
Russillo hates Ayton. He's like, good, they had to do it. He understands.
Yeah.
He goes back to the finals run and, hey, we had a guy that can defend the perimeter. All this stuff was 2 years ago. Nothing happened since. Nothing showed us that he actually improved, and we can count on him in those kind of instances where he can guard a Giannis or even a Jokic. But no one can really guard those guys anyways. So I don't even know what we're talking about, because he's talking about who's going to guard who on the Milwaukee Bucks, because they have Lillard, who's a defensive, like, he can't play
liability.
Defense. He's a liability. And no one can guard anybody. He had a list of guys that's like Devin Booker, all the all-star starter, point guards, shooting guards out there. Who's going to guard those guys on that team? It's like no one can guard those guys. So the reason, like, you can maybe be upset that we lost DA is the potential of him being so versatile when he wants to play defense on the perimeter and in the paint, and how good he can eventually be against a Giannis or Jokic. But there's nothing in the last 2 years that showed us that he's improved on that we can count on him in this season. So to see him in Portland with that team, and I know Drew Holiday's not going to be there, with that team around him of young guys, I'm like, oh, there's one guy that's going to join that team, Scoot Henderson. He's going to be a Devin Booker type.
Exactly.
He's gonna expect a lot out of DA.
But he's a grinder.
He is going to want to win instantly. So for DA to go to a new team, it is young. Hey, I can be the vocal. No. Scoot's going to be the guy. You have to fall in line. So we'll see how that lasts, how long that lasts, and how Scoot can even actually deal with this guy in DeAndre Ayton.
I mean, there's a lot, obviously, to break down right there. First off, the DA
break
stuff,
it down.
You know,
usually is after I talk.
The whole DA stuff there. Like, I understand you're kind of putting on a show for the cameras, and I get it. Like, you don't want to go into a new job and be like, oh, this job sucks and I hate this place. Get me out of here. But, like, you know, just like Phoenix Suns fans would do, and they're going to continue to do, it's like, show your excitement with your play, DeAndre. And so, even though I think it was a little over the top what he said in that video, you know, like, I feel like I just get drafted. I'm so excited to be here. Whatever. It is what it is. Go and prove it, especially when we play them back-to-back in preseason games. I want to see, you know, how great DeAndre Ayton is going to be and how excited he is to play for the Blazers. But going to the Milwaukee thing just real quick, something that I think's getting a little overlooked, they didn't trade Chris Middleton. I'm just throwing that out there. To be honest with you, I don't know what their bench looks like. I don't know how good they're going to be on defense.
They got Jay Crowder on it.
They got Jay Crowder, you know what I mean? It's like, I think they're going to be okay. I don't know if they're a finals contender. And I did see a couple of those like, oh, well, we made the Milwaukee Bucks better and all that. Let's just get to the fucking playoffs already. Excuse my language. Let's just start the season. Worry about all that later. But I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts.
Well, and a big thing that a lot of what frustrates Suns fans is ultimately what Ayton's market value was. A max center, not necessarily earned, right? Like, he had a really good postseason in 2021. And outside of that, it's been inconsistent. But the Suns astutely signed him to a max, not right away. And there could be some fallout from that. Like, Gerald Bourguet of PHNX had a good point where he stated that because the Suns didn't give him a max right after that 2021 when he was initially eligible, even it probably should have been the right thing to do to keep up his engagement. And instead, it deterred him from his success, and he held resentment, and it continued. And that's ultimately what broke and fractured the relationship with him and Monty Williams, and him with Matt Ishbia, him with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, is the fact that his relationship what was fractured because he didn't feel like he was properly valued. They do give him a max contract, so now on paper he's a max contract player. You can't tell me that you believe he played, or you can tell me, and I would just disagree with you, I'll say it that way, that he was a max contract center last year. 18 and 10, those are great numbers. Those are Miles Turner numbers. Miles Turner is not a max contract center. So a big frustrating part that a lot of Phoenix Suns fans are dealing with is the fact that the return on DeAndre Ayton, there's 2 deals that we've heard about this offseason. One was Tim Hardaway Jr., Rashawn Holmes, and JaVale McGee, and I think like a second-round pick from the Dallas Mavericks, or what we ultimately got, which was Jusuf Nurkic. We got Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and also Keon Johnson back. That's what his value was. And that's where a lot of Suns fans feel fleeced, because it's like, well, you hear all these big names changing teams and you try to make the trade happen on NBA 2K and it's fucking impossible because it's like, I don't even know. There's too many roster spots. But at the same time, that's his market value. And I love what Long John Silver, 85, one of our elite jamsters on the Suns Jam Session podcast states. He says, you guys are walking into a tattoo shop with $15 and expecting to get a sleeve. That is a great way to put exactly what happened. The Suns fans walked in with $15, which was DeAndre Ayton, and we wanted to get a sleeve tattoo. And ultimately, we got back what was fair market value.
What's up, Suns? Geek?